Okay, so with the transfer case and the chassis and transmission, everything already attached, I was looking into the box and son of a gun, look at this. It actually does come with thread lock. I didn't think it did, but here is the thread lock right here. What kit actually comes with that? Then here is the shock oil, right? It's a 30 weight shock oil for me to fill up the shocks, as well as some white and black graphite grease. This is the black stuff here. Then up in the top corner, this is like a treasure hunt for me. I'm not used to seeing this kind of stuff in a kit. This is my own little micro servo. I thought I was going to have to buy this. It's in behind the plastic, as you can see here, the beautiful packaging that it's in. But yeah, I don't need to go out and buy a micro servo for the shifting now, which is fantastic. Here are the bead locks, right? Scaled down bead locks. Look at those. What a beauty. So my goal for today is just to build as much as I can. I'd love to see the axles attached, build the tires, get the shocks filled up. Let's get building. I am simply loving these axles. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful. I know I said the chassis rail, the whole chassis and the frame rails themselves was quite light. And these axles, they're not heavy, but they definitely have some beef to them, hey? They're heavier than RC four-wheel drives. They feel heavier, at least. I want to crack open the inside here and have a look at the gears. Also, I want to have a look at the grease, just to make sure there's enough in there. There we go. Beautiful. Tons of grease on the inside already. So those helical gears, they're beautiful. Let me get in nice and focus that for you right there. And then of course have a look at the pinion. There is quite a slathering of grease on there already. So I'm glad we got in there and had a look. I don't need to pack this any more full of grease right now, only because of the cold weather and temperature out there. But always good to make sure to go in and check. Really glad to see there's ample grease on the inside of this axle. That is a rare thing. I would like to note that if you needed to add grease, they've got this handy dandy little screw right here that you can actually take out, and it opens up a small port. Now, if you've got a little injector or something like that that can fit into there, you could probably add grease right there. It's a great So the front steering axle, and then the back straight axle, place those there. I've already done 3 of the tires off camera, and I'm going to show you these little bead locks right here, which are super scale and relatively fairly easy to put together. First thing I got to do is remove the center hub. Once the center hub is removed, then I've got 5 small screws around the outside. Once those screws are out, take the top plate off. Normally you've got to be really careful about these circles, but they seem to line up very well. And this is just a 3-part bead lock. So this inner circle is going to go on the inner rubber, or on the inner circle of the tire. You just stretch it on the inside, and there. Because I want to try to get this as flat as possible, or you'll get a little bit of a wobble as it's rolling. It'll kind of look a little off. So once that's in there, you take the back part, slide it in, make sure to kind of squeeze the tire to get your bead into place. You can see a nice line around here. And I'm going to push it down to try to hold it. As I flip it over, I'm going to line up the outer plate with the holes for the screws in the center. And I'm also going to give it one of these little squeezes. And then I'm going to sandwich it together, making sure that my hex adapter is in the back. And then just screw everything back together. And for all the people that are new to bead locks, this is just like on full-size vehicles. You want to make sure to have a starter nut and lug, or this one actually just threads right into the back, and then do exactly the opposite in like a star pattern. So you're making a triangle. Bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. That way, as it's cinching its way down, it'll have a proper squeeze against the bead here. Don't screw one all the way down and then screw this one all the way down. Just do it in stages, or else you'll find that you get a wobbly tire. Sometimes it's almost impossible to avoid, but with this help, at least you'll tighten it up properly, and you'll do your best to avoid. And you can kind of see as it pinches down, you know, where you should stop. See there, it's pinching down. Done. And then on the star pattern coming down right here. Just like that. All right, so the tie rod, the counter-threaded link, and the two axles with the shock. No problem, and it's time to install the link, basically. So I'm going to have to make a couple of rod ends again, just like I did in the last episode. You guys can check that out if you want to learn about it, because I'm just going to do it. Then I can install it straight onto the axle itself. So here is what the rod looks like. Make sure you've got your spacer on the inside of the rod end, black spacer, and then the bar, and then basically repeat on the other side. And I'm just using the measurements in the book to make sure that I've got my next rod absolutely perfect. So a sideways and an angled. I wish you guys could have seen my face when I actually discovered that this is behind the axle steering, which is very nice. No kidding that this was designed by trail crawlers. This is definitely something I'd like to see on a trail rig, and here it is. The last time I saw behind the axle steering was on an Axial XR10, and it was a new innovation then. So it's really nice to see it has moved into the trail truck industry, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Boom's not the first one to do it, but it's great to see on this rig. Right on, what a beauty. Certainly a piece of artwork. So perfect behind the axle steering like we thought, and then of course the panhard bar that's going to help support that axle in place. Let's get it installed onto the chassis. All right. Get some oil in there. Compress the shock. So I'm just installing the single top suspension link through the axle. Then I'm going to show you where the springs are here, where the coils go. So now that I have that one done, this coil, just holding it there in place with the wrong screw, this coil shock right here is going to be going either on the inside, no, it is the outside, much like this. The confusing part is I think the link goes like that. This takes more investigation. Okay, so the coil shock has a long screw that goes through the shock hanger, like that. And then the link, the lower link, goes through that same screw, like that. Come on, it's hard for everyone to see. Come on. Oh, doing RC videos on YouTube is easy, they say. Everything goes so smoothly, they say. There we go. So, and then we get a nut on the other side of that, and we have one side almost done. And that is exactly what I intend to do. So here, the screw. I love these shock hangers. You know why? Because everything is already pre-threaded. So I can choose anything right now just as a placement marker and hook up that coil spring just like that. Coil over shock. Beauty. Just tightening up this panhard bar. There are 3 different spots I can choose from, all right up here. 3 different holes to choose from where I want that panhard or stability bar to be. So you guys can see right here is the panhard. That's going to keep the axle from wiggling back and forth. So watch, when I push down on it, there we go. Nice and smooth. I don't have any issue here at all. So no binding, that means I can move on to the rear axle. This is fairly simple, of course. Just remove the longer screw and the threaded nut, or the nylon nut, I should say. Line them up. We're going to want these top suspension links to be threaded through on either side, and just replace that long screw right about there. Half of you are probably giving me heck right now for using needle nose pliers, not my cross wrench, and I agree with you. Shouldn't be using those at all. Should use the proper socket. Perfect. Then the longer links come down, and we bring in the second set of coilovers. I love the fact that these axles are threaded. The axle hangers are threaded, which makes it so much easier than having to work with a ton of nylon nuts. I just said that. Next. Getting much closer now. Rear suspension is almost completed. Now this is what I really love about this chassis as well. A lot of companies are moving the shocks around, but check it out. Now we've got tons of areas to hook this into. I love that. In fact, this kind of reminds me of snowmobile suspension. Just the way it's angled like this. Let's go up to the third one here. Every single one of these holes is pre-threaded. That is amazing. I put my shocks on upside down. Just one of them. A rear suspension movement, look at that, beautiful. No problem at all. I might put a little bit of a stronger shock in the back of that if I was carrying anything in the back of this truck, but man, does that look sporty. In fact, this whole truck is starting to scream to me sport truck, not work truck. I know half of you will be disappointed right now, but normally I let my builds kind of talk to me as I'm doing it, and this one is screaming for a killer motor and a nice, fast-looking paint job. I think something that really complements the box, you know, really kind of bring it out for the BRX01. Yeah. Yes, and now I get to look at these beautiful drive shafts. I've been wanting to look at these for a little while, that's what she said. But the Boom Racing drive shaft super scale. Let's see if I can get a good focus on this here for you. Right there. Look at this little beauty. So I'm going to keep this attached because they would have got the phase of it right already. And just see what I can do with installing the little scale pieces. So the front drive shaft should be pretty easy. All of this should be easy if I can figure it out. All I need is the spacer on either side and the two rings, and of course these pins are the axle drive. And the spacer and the collar are in place. Got the top one done. And just tightening up the front one here. Got to make sure you have your spacer in there. There's a spacer right here that kind of shims everything up and makes it nice and straight. Perfect. The red rings and the spacers are a little bit tough to line up, but I think it's just because it's so precise. Everything else on this build, all the holes have lined up, and so far this one did too, but it definitely took some finagling and patience, you know, just to kind of get it into place there. So there you go, at least you know. And the final one right in the middle. I'm curious because this has an open output drive on the transfer case itself. So what the heck is this for? All right, so this is looking generally ready for electronics. The only thing I'm going to do now, just for giggles, just because we did so much work today, is put on these tires. So this is going to be easy. One drive pin in each axle. Then a hex adapter slides over the end of the axle stub. Then you take your tire. Well, I know I'm going to be taking these out. Normally I'd put a set screw in there so I wouldn't lose those hex adapters. But I'm going to keep it there for now because I know I'm going to take these off in the very near future. Slide that scale tire through. This cross wrench doesn't fit at all. This is the reason they gave you this tool right here, so you could actually fit into the tire like this. And then nice and easy, cinch it into place and replace the axle cover. And there it is, guys, the Boom Racing BRX01 roller. Look at this. Now, not all of the pieces are there. I definitely could have added on the battery tray and you know, gone a little bit further, but I think that's going to be a part of the electronics install. But listen to this. Watch this. Ready? That is the super sticky tires trying to go across that plastic board. Super strength, super grip, and so far a super piece of kit that I've been looking at. I really like all the scale things on here. The drive shafts are beautiful. I'm wondering about this second output drive on the transfer case, what the heck that's going to be for. Haven't looked ahead yet, so I always like you know, discovering as I build, but in the next episode I'm going to start working on the servos. Of course, the electronics is next. That's when I'll put in the electronics tray. Guys, smash that like button. Let's throw the YouTube algorithm for a loop. Can we get 2,500 likes on a build video? Click it, click the subscribe button, get notified for the next build video so you don't miss out on the BRX01 from Boom Racing.